The forest does not merely stand. It watches, its shadows weaving a net around those who dare to trespass. In the late afternoon, the sun clings low, its light fractured by towering pines, casting jagged streaks across the earth like cracks in reality itself. The air bites, not with the crisp promise of autumn, but with a deeper chill, one that seeps into your bones and whispers of secrets buried too long. My name is Alex Harper, and for 7 years, I've hunted the ghosts of forgotten places. Factories where rusted gears hum with silent despair, asylums where the walls echo with unvoiced screams, bunkers sunk beneath the earth like coffins sealed against the world. Each place offered a story, a scar, a fragment of humanity's hubris, but nothing, not the deepest mine nor the most forsaken ruin, prepared me for what I found in the Oregon wilderness, in a bunker that wasn't abandoned but alive. Its pulse a warning I ignored until it devoured a piece of my soul. It began with a map, not the sterile print of a government survey but a relic, its edges frayed, its lines drawn by a hand that knew the forest's secrets. I found it on Abandoned Veins, a forum for urban explorers, buried in a thread titled Oregon's Hidden Cold War Relic. The post, by a user named Echo Warden, was terse. Unmapped bunker, deep woods, 45.6 N, 122.8 W. Hand-drawn map, never explored. Don't go alone. Attached was a scan of a worn page, inked with meticulous care. Trails, a split oak, a moss-covered boulder, and a small X near the edge, marking the bunker's heart. The comments were a chorus of frustration and fear. Hikers whose GPS units glitched, compasses spun aimlessly, trails looped impossibly. One user, Trail Spectre, wrote, "Hiked 4 hours, found the oak, then nothing. Felt like the forest was pushing me out." Another, Voidwalker, added, "Got close, I think, heard whispers, no source. Turned back." I leaned back in my Portland apartment, the laptop's glow illuminating my cluttered desk. Maps, notebooks, a cold coffee mug, coordinates failing, paths shifting. A bunker untouched by time? It was a puzzle, and I've never walked away from one. For days later, I stood at the forest's edge, 30 miles west of Portland, the map folded in my pocket, its creases soft from obsessive handling. My backpack was heavy with gear, a high-lumen flashlight, a DSLR camera with spare batteries, a multi-tool, water bottles, energy bars, a first aid kit, a compass, a GPS unit, and a notebook for sketches. The trail was barely a suggestion, a faint ribbon through brambles and pine needles, each step crunching under my boots. The forest was vibrant, birds trilled in looping patterns, squirrels darted through underbrush, wind rustled leaves, but it felt orchestrated, a facade masking a deeper stillness. I checked the map hourly, spotting landmarks. The split oak, its halves leaning like a broken gate. The boulder, moss thick as a pelt, its surface unnaturally smooth, as if polished by unseen hands. 2 hours in, my compass needle twitched, then spun lazily, refusing to settle. I tapped it, muttering curses. The GPS was worse, its screen flickering, placing me in a river 10 miles east, then a lake 20 miles north. I folded the device away, relying on the map, tracing its lines with a finger, the X my lodestone. By late afternoon, the forest grew denser, trees older, their trunks massive, bark etched with time's patient grooves. The light dimmed, shadows pooling like ink in the hollows between roots. The air turned cold, not autumn's crispness but a bone-deep freeze, as if the earth exhaled winter's heart. My breath clouded, each exhale a fleeting ghost in the still air. Then I saw it, the bunker's entrance nearly swallowed by the forest. A rusted metal door, half buried in a hillside, was tangled in vines, their tendrils weaving a green shroud over its surface. I crouched, setting my flashlight on the ground, and tugged at the vines. They were stubborn, clinging like living things, each yank showering dirt and leaves, revealing pitted, rust-eaten metal. The cold intensified, seeping from the bunker itself, a presence that pressed against my chest, urging retreat. The forest fell silent. No birds, no wind, just my breathing, loud and unsteady in the void. I aimed the flashlight's beam at the door, its rust glinting like dried blood, edges jagged where metal had crumbled. My heart pounded, a cocktail of thrill and dread coursing through me. This was it, the puzzle's heart, the X on the map. I pressed my shoulder against the door, pushing with all my weight. It groaned, hinges shrieking, the sound tearing through the silence like a warning. I winced, glancing back, half expecting the trees to react, their branches curling inward. The door gave way, revealing a blackness that swallowed the light, a maw into the earth's depths. A smell hit me, stale, musty air thick with decay and metal, like a tomb unsealed after centuries. I hesitated, the flashlight's beam trembling as it cut through the dark, illuminating a narrow concrete corridor, walls slick with moisture, streaked with grime. I took a deep breath, gripped the flashlight, and stepped inside. The door thudded shut behind me, the sound reverberating, a finality that tightened my throat. My boots scuffed the concrete, each step echoing unnervingly loud, the air damp and heavy, pressing against my skin like a second presence. The corridor stretched on, its walls closing in, the ceiling low enough to graze my hair if I stood too straight. Faded posters clung to the concrete, their edges curling, colors leached by time. One bore blocky Cyrillic text, Russian, I guessed, accompanying a stern black and white image of a saluting soldier, his eyes fixed forward, accusatory. The words, unreadable, felt like a command, a warning to intruders. Another poster showed a schematic, possibly of the bunker, but its lines were too faded to decipher. "What were you hiding down here?" I murmured, my voice swallowed by the oppressive quiet, as if the bunker absorbed sound itself. The corridor branched into rooms, each a snapshot of a forgotten era, frozen in decay. The first was a kitchen, its air sharp with the scent of rust, like blood left to dry. Rusted appliances, a stove, a refrigerator, a double sink, stood in eerie stillness, their surfaces pitted, flaking into reddish dust. The sink dripped steadily, each drop a metronome in the silence, the water pooling in a basin stained green with algae. On a counter, a single tin cup lay overturned, its rim dented, as if dropped mid-sip, abandoned in haste. I raised my camera, the shutters click echoing, capturing the scene's desolation. The cup's solitude a silent story of interruption. I stepped closer, the floor creaking faintly, and noticed a faint scratch on the counter, a Cyrillic letter, Day, etched as if by a knife. I photographed it, the flash illuminating the room's decay, its emptiness pressing against me. The next room was a dormitory, rows of bunk beds stretching into the shadows, their metal frames corroded, sagging under time's weight. Mattresses were skeletal, fabric shredded, stuffing spilling like entrails across the floor. I crouched by one bunk, spotting a nameplate, V. Kovalenko, 1962. The letters were faint, etched in a script I couldn't fully place, possibly Russian or Ukrainian. A rusted locker nearby held a single item, a photograph, its edges curled, showing a young man in a military uniform, unsmiling, his eyes haunted. I slipped it into my notebook, the paper brittle against my fingers. The flash of my camera illuminated the room, revealing no graffiti, no broken bottles, none of the usual scars of trespassers. This place was untouched, a capsule sealed from the world, its silence a testament to its isolation. The air grew colder the deeper I ventured, the smell of decay sharpening, burning my nostrils with a metallic tang. The next room was a control center, its walls lined with ancient equipment blanketed in dust. Consoles, switches, and dials stood silent, their labels faded, some in Cyrillic, others in a script I didn't recognize. A chair, its vinyl cracked, faced a console with a blank screen, as if waiting for an operator who never returned. I brushed a finger over a dial, dust smearing, revealing a word, control. The room felt like the bunker's nerve center, its purpose obscured by time, yet heavy with intent. I snapped photos, the shutters click a violation of the silence, each image capturing the room's stillness, its secrets locked in rusted circuits. At the corridor's end, a door stood apart, pristine against the decay. Thick metal panels, riveted tightly, gleamed faintly, unmarred by rust or time. No handle, no keyhole, just a smooth, sealed surface, its edges etched with a faint symbol, a spiral with jagged lines, like a warning carved by a steady hand. I pressed against it, first lightly, then with force, my shoulder straining, but it didn't budge. I wedged my fingers into the seam, finding no give, the metal cold as ice against my skin. "Come on," I muttered, frustration rising, my voice flat in the dead air. I scanned the walls with my flashlight, searching for a switch, a panel, anything. The concrete was bare, offering no answers. Whatever lay beyond this door, someone had gone to great lengths to keep it hidden, and the symbol's presence felt like a lock on more than just metal. I turned back, determined to unravel the bunker's secrets. The deeper sections felt different, cleaner, fresher, the dampness replaced by a sterile chill. A faint hum vibrated through my boots, like a generator's whisper, growing louder with each step. The walls were smooth, almost polished, reflecting my flashlight's beam like mirrors, a stark contrast to the grime above. This wasn't abandonment. This was maintenance, recent and deliberate, a sign of life in a place that should have been dead. My pulse quickened, the shift unsettling, as if I'd crossed a threshold into the bunker's true heart. I reached a door, slightly ajar, a soft glow spilling into the corridor, pale and unnatural, like moonlight trapped in a cave. I hesitated, fingers tightening around the flashlight, my breath shallow. I nudged the door open with my boot, the hinges silent, unnervingly smooth for a place so old. The room was vast, its ceiling soaring, dwarfing the spaces above. Monitors lined the far wall, their screens alive with data, endless streams of numbers, symbols, and graphs, flickering in patterns that felt alive, hypnotic. Cables snaked across the floor, looping around metal tables, disappearing into walls, their rubber coating new, uncracked, unlike the decayed relics above. In the center stood a metallic cylinder, nearly 6 feet tall, its polished steel surface flawless, without seams, hinges, or markings. It dominated the room, a monolith of intent, its presence both beautiful and menacing. I stepped closer, boots crunching on debris, screws, wire fragments, glass shards, scattered like offerings around the cylinder's base. The hum was louder here, vibrating in my chest, a pulse that seemed to sync with my heartbeat. "What the hell is this?" I whispered, circling the cylinder, the flashlight tracing its contours. Its surface was colder than it should have been, the chill biting through my gloves, unnatural in a room without frost. I raised my camera, the shutters clicked sharp, jarring in the quiet, capturing every angle. The cylinders gleam, the monitors glow, the cables orderly chaos. The data on the screens shifted, numbers cascading, symbols pulsing, but their meaning eluded me, a language of purpose I couldn't grasp. The unease I'd felt since entering grew, a certainty that this bunker wasn't abandoned. Someone or something was using it, maintaining this room, this cylinder, for a purpose I couldn't fathom. I crouched, examining the cables. Their pristine condition confirmed recent activity, their ends vanishing into ports along the cylinder's base, like veins feeding a heart. The hum followed me as I moved deeper, the polished walls reflecting my flashlight's beam, casting distorted versions of myself in their sheen. The air grew colder, heavier, as if the bunker exhaled dread, each breath a labor against its weight. I reached another door, its edges glowing faintly, a pale light seeping through the cracks. My hand trembled as I nudged it open, the hinges silent, moving with a precision that felt wrong in this decaying labyrinth. The room was smaller, its center dominated by a metal table cluttered with surgical tools. Scalpels, forceps, bone saws, retractors, stained with dark, wet smears. The blood was fresh, glistening under my flashlight, its metallic scent sharp, mingling with the sterile chill. A chair, bolted to the floor, sat beside the table, its leather restraints dangling, stained with the same red. The padding cracked, but the blood new. Too new for a place abandoned decades ago. My stomach twisted, the flashlight shaking as I stepped closer. The tools weren't merely old or discarded. They were used, their edges sharp, the blood clotting but not dry. The chair's restraints were worn, the leather creased from repeated use, but the stains were fresh, as if someone had been strapped there hours ago. I forced my eyes to scan the room, searching for answers. A trail of blood, smeared droplets, irregular and frantic, led from the table to a door across the room, slightly open, darkness pooling beyond. The trail was deliberate, a path marked by violence, each smear a testament to struggle. I swallowed hard, the flashlight's beam jittering as I followed the trail, each step deliberate, my boots heavy against the smooth floor. The corridor beyond was narrow, the blood smudges faint but unmistakable, guiding me like a thread through the bunker's maze. The corridor ended at a small room, its door wide open, a monitor's glow drawing my eye like a beacon. The screen showed a live feed of a dimly lit cell, its walls bare concrete, stained with streaks I didn't want to identify. Inside, a young man paced, his pale skin ghostly under the harsh light, brown hair matted with sweat, clinging to his forehead. He muttered, lips moving rapidly, words lost to the silent feed, his bloodshot eyes darting frantically, as if sensing an unseen threat. His hands dragged down the walls, fingers clawing at the concrete, searching for escape. My chest tightened, a cold sweat breaking across my skin. The sight of his desperation a mirror to my own growing fear. He was trapped, alone, a prisoner in this buried hell. I tore my gaze from the screen, scanning the room for answers. Shelves lined the walls, holding equipment I couldn't identify. Metal cases, cables, vials sealed with rubber stoppers, their contents dark and viscous. On a far wall, a set of keys hung from a hook, their metal tags glinting in the flashlight's beam. I stepped closer, heart pounding, and examined them. One tag bore a symbol, a spiral with jagged lines, identical to the one etched on the pristine door I'd found earlier. The other keys had no markings, their purpose unclear, but the spiral key felt heavy with intent, a promise of revelation or ruin. I reached for it, hesitating as I glanced at the monitor. The man had stopped pacing, standing in the cell's center, shoulders heaving, his breath visible in the cold air. He stared directly into the camera, directly at me, his eyes wide with terror, a silent plea or accusation. My breath caught, the keys clinking softly in my hand. He knew I was here, impossible as it seemed, his gaze piercing the screen, the bunker, the distance between us. His eyes held mine, a connection that felt like a warning, a demand to act or flee. I turned, gripping the keys, and retraced my steps, the image of his face burning in my mind. The bunker's corridors felt tighter, the hum louder, vibrating through the walls like a living pulse. I searched for the marked door, my flashlight sweeping the walls, the spiral symbol my only guide. 10 minutes later, I found it, the symbol etched into the frame, its lines sharp, deliberate. The key slid into the lock, turning with a soft click that echoed in the silence. I hesitated, hand on the handle, the cold metal biting my palm, a warning against what lay beyond. I pushed the door open, the flashlight sweeping a small, bare room. A concrete cell with a single cot shoved into the corner, its mattress thin and stained. There he was, the man from the monitor, sitting on the cot's edge, head buried in his hands, his thin frame trembling. His brown hair clung to his sweat-slicked forehead, his clothes, a torn t-shirt and jeans, damp with perspiration, clinging to his pale skin. "Hey," I said softly, stepping inside, my voice alien in the stillness, too loud yet too small, swallowed by the room's oppressive quiet. His head jerked up, bloodshot eyes locking onto mine, wide with fear and disbelief. He froze, then stood, unsteady, gripping the cot for support, his knuckles white against the rusted frame. "Who are you?" His voice was hoarse, trembling, barely a whisper, as if speaking pained him. "My name's Alex," I said, keeping my tone calm, though my heart raced. "I found you on a monitor. I'm getting you out of here." He stared, chest heaving, his breath shallow and erratic, as if he couldn't trust the words. Slowly, he nodded, his eyes darting to the door, then back to me. "I don't know how long I've been here," he said, his voice cracking, breaking on the edge of panic. "They took me. I was walking home from work, near Selwood. Then I woke up here, in the dark." I stepped closer, the flashlight casting long shadows across the cramped room, its beam catching the sheen of sweat on his face. "What's your name? Who took you? Do you know who they are?" I asked, my voice steady despite the dread pooling in my gut. He shook his head violently, fists clenching at his sides, nails digging into his palms. Jack Carter. I don't know who they are. I don't remember faces, just voices, low, clipped, like they were giving orders. They said I was part of an experiment, that it was important, that I was chosen. His knees buckled, and I reached out, gripping his arm to steady him. His skin was cold, clammy, trembling under my touch, a tremor running through him like a current. "They injected me with something," he continued, his voice rising, frantic. "I don't know what it was, but it's like I can't control my body sometimes. It feels like I'm not even me anymore, like something's inside, moving me." His words sent a chill through me, the weight of his fear mirroring my own, but I forced myself to focus. "Okay," I said firmly, meeting his eyes. "We're getting out of here. Can you walk?" He nodded shakily, but his first step faltered, legs wobbling like a newborn colt's. I caught him, wrapping an arm around his back, supporting his weight. His body was frail, lighter than it should have been, as if the bunker had leached his strength. "Come on, we need to move quickly," I said, guiding him toward the door, the flashlight cutting through the darkness ahead. The corridor stretched endlessly, the hum growing louder, vibrating through the walls, a pulse that seemed to mock our escape. Jack leaned heavily against me, his breathing labored, skin glistening with sweat under the flashlight's beam. His steps were uneven, each one a struggle, his body trembling with every movement. "Are you okay?" I asked, glancing at him, the light catching the hollows of his cheeks, the feverish glint in his eyes. "I don't know," he murmured, voice faint, barely audible over the hum. "I feel wrong, like something's crawling under my skin, pushing against it." My grip tightened, his words echoing in my mind, a warning I couldn't fully grasp. The bunker's air was heavier now, pressing down, as if resisting our progress. Jack stumbled, nearly collapsing, and I paused to steady him, his chest rising in quick, shallow bursts. "Just a little farther," I said, urging him forward, though the corridor seemed to stretch, its walls closing in, the hum a constant pressure against my skull. We turned a corner, the bunker's entrance faintly visible, its rusted door a promise of freedom in the distance. "Almost there," I said, my voice firm despite the fear gnawing at me, a primal instinct urging me to run, to leave Jack behind. But I couldn't. He was human, a victim, and I was his only chance. Jack stumbled again, knees buckling, and I dragged him upright, his weight dragging at my shoulder, his cold skin slick under my arm. "Stay with me, Jack," I said, the words a mantra, a shield against the dread. "You're going to be okay." He nodded weakly, head drooping, his body ice cold, as if the bunker were draining his life with every step. The exit was close, so close, but the air felt suffocating, the hum intensifying, a vibration that seemed to pulse in time with Jack's trembling. Then he stopped, dead in his tracks, his body rigid. I stumbled forward, turning to face him, the flashlight's beam casting harsh shadows across his face. He clutched his chest, fingers digging into his torn shirt, breaths coming in violent, gasping bursts. "Jack, what's wrong?" I asked, alarm rising, my voice sharp in the silence. I reached out, but he recoiled, staggering back, his eyes wide with terror. "I don't." His words cut off as he convulsed, doubling over, coughing violently, a wet, hacking sound that echoed in the corridor. The flashlight trembled in my hand, its beam catching his arm. His skin was peeling, a sliver curling away like a blister, revealing something shiny beneath, metal, gleaming in the light, unnatural and wrong. "Jack?" I faltered, stepping back, horror rooting me to the spot. The peeling spread, skin splitting, curling back from his forearms, his chest, exposing a metallic framework, steel plates and wires woven into flesh. He looked up, eyes wide, pleading. "It hurts!" he screamed, voice cracking, raw with agony. "Oh God, it hurts!" His body convulsed again, the tearing audible, a wet, sickening sound of skin ripped apart, hanging in strips, revealing a lattice of metal beneath, glinting like a machine's skeleton. I stumbled backward, my mind reeling, unable to process the transformation. Jack clawed at his chest, tearing away more skin, his movements frantic, jerky, as if driven by an external force. His scream warped, twisting into a distorted, mechanical roar, inhuman, guttural, rattling in my chest. His spine arched unnaturally, limbs elongating, joints snapping with a sickening crunch, reforming into jagged metallic protrusions that tore through his remaining skin. His eyes, once bloodshot and human, glowed a searing red, burning with an alien intensity that made my stomach churn. His mouth opened, but the sound wasn't a scream. It was a roar, a deep, metallic growl that vibrated through the corridor, a sound no living thing could make. "Jack!" I shouted, but he was gone, replaced by a creature of flesh and steel, its movements jerky, insect-like, as if learning to navigate its new form. It lurched forward, limbs scraping the walls with a hideous screech, claws glinting in the flashlight's beam. "Stay back!" I yelled, voice cracking, tripping over my feet as I backed away. It lunged, claws swiping through the air where I'd stood, the force of its movement shaking the walls. I threw myself aside, hitting the ground hard, the flashlight skittering away, its beam spinning wildly, casting chaotic shadows. I scrambled up, heart pounding so loud it drowned out the hum, and ran, boots pounding the smooth floor. The creature's roar echoed behind me, metallic limbs screeching against concrete, a relentless pursuit that filled the corridor with sound. The bunker's layout twisted, corridors looping illogically, a labyrinth designed to trap me. My lungs burned, legs aching, but I didn't stop, couldn't stop, the scraping growing louder, the creature's red eyes a promise of annihilation in the dark. I veered toward a side door, unmarked, barely visible in the dim light, and slammed into it, fumbling the handle with shaking hands. It opened, and I threw myself inside, a cramped storage room cluttered with shelves, crates, and rusty pipes. I slammed the door, dragging a heavy crate, a rusted shelf, a loose pipe against it, barricading myself in, my hands moving on autopilot. I pressed my back to the far wall, the concrete cold through my hoodie, biting into my spine. The flashlight trembled in my grip, its beam unsteady as I aimed it at the door, waiting, breath shallow, every muscle taut. Outside, the creature growled, its distorted voice a mechanical snarl, alien yet hauntingly familiar, a twisted echo of Jack's screams. Its claws scraped the door, the barricade groaning under its weight, metal creaking as it pressed against the barrier. I bit my lip, stifling a sound, my body rigid, sweat dripping into my eyes. The door rattled violently, the crate shifting an inch, then stopped, replaced by a low, angry growl that seemed to vibrate in my bones. The creature paced, claws clanging against the walls, the floor trembling under its weight. Minutes passed, my legs aching from standing rigid, back pressed so hard I felt part of the wall, as if I could meld into it, disappear. The scraping faded, growls growing distant, then silence, a silence heavier than the hum, more menacing in its emptiness. I didn't trust it, counting seconds, breath shallow, the flashlight's beam steadying as I forced my hand to stop shaking. Slowly, I approached the barricade, shifting the crate just enough to crack the door, the hinges creaking faintly. The corridor was empty, the air still, but the hum remained, a reminder of the bunker's pulse. I slipped out, boots silent against the smooth floor, the flashlight flickering, its beam sputtering. I cursed under my breath, shaking it, every shadow a threat, every creak a prelude to the creature's return. A distant roar, low but unmistakable, spurred me forward, my pace quickening. The bunker's corridors a maze of polished walls and rusted doors. The layout felt wrong, corridors looping in ways that defied logic, but I recognized the decay. The posters, the grime, the faint outline of the entrance in the distance. The exit was near, its rusted door a beacon in the dark. Another roar, closer, sent my pulse spiking, and I broke into a sprint, the flashlight dimming, its beam barely cutting through the shadows. "Come on," I muttered, shaking it, the light flaring briefly, illuminating the door ahead. The creature's roars echoed, louder, the scrape of its claws against the walls closing the distance. I threw myself at the door, shoulders slamming the cold metal, fumbling the handle with slick hands. It groaned open, and I stumbled into the forest, slamming the door shut behind me, the sound a thunderclap in the silent night. Cold air hit me, sharp and biting against my sweat-drenched skin. The forest's chill a stark contrast to the bunker's sterile cold. I collapsed onto the dirt, gasping, clutching the earth, pine needles biting my palms. The creature's roars echoed from within, muffled by the door. A sound that promised pursuit but didn't follow, couldn't or wouldn't cross the threshold. I lay there, trembling, exhaustion and terror warring in my veins. The forest's silence save for my ragged breaths, each one forming clouds in the frigid air. The door loomed behind me, its rusted surface a barrier between worlds. But I didn't dare move, not yet, my eyes fixed on its surface, half expecting it to burst open, the creature's red eyes burning through the dark. Back in my Portland apartment the next morning, the city's sounds, horns, chatter, the hum of traffic, felt surreal, a thin veneer over the horror I'd escaped. I sank into my desk chair, the room a sanctuary, yet the laptop's blinking cursor mocked me, a reminder of the truth I couldn't unsee. The folder labeled Bunker held photos I wasn't ready to face, each image a portal to the nightmare. My hands trembled, a cold coffee mug beside me, my hoodie still damp with sweat that hadn't dried, clinging to my skin like a second layer of fear. I clicked the folder, images populating the screen in neat rows, each one a stab of memory. The surgical tools gleamed, blood smears glistening on their edges, the metallic scent vivid in my mind, sharp and choking. The chair's leather straps, stained red, seemed to creak in the silence, their purpose a violation of humanity. The blood trail, smeared across the floor, led to Jack's cell, a path of desperation and pain. One photo showed Jack's face, filling the screen, his bloodshot eyes wide with terror, staring through the monitor. Through me, his fear etched into every line, every shadow under his eyes. The image was a mirror of his final moments as a man, before the bunker claimed him, before he became something else. I couldn't look anymore, my stomach churning, bile rising in my throat. My fingers selected the folder, hovering over delete, the cursor a guillotine over the truth. Erasing it felt like denying Jack's existence, his suffering, but keeping it was unbearable, each photo a weight I couldn't carry. I clicked, the folder vanishing, the screen blank save for my reflection. Hollow eyes, dark circles deeper than I'd ever seen, hair matted with sweat, sticking out in uneven tufts. I looked like a ghost, a stranger in my own skin, the bunker's mark etched into my face. I closed the laptop, the faint click breaking the silence, a sound too small for the weight it carried. The room felt too small, walls pressing in, the air thick with the memory of the bunker's hum. I drifted to the window, blinds half open, morning light spilling through, casting slanted shadows across the floor. My reflection superimposed over the street below, eyes searching the shadows, half expecting a glint of metal, a flash of red eyes in the alley. There was nothing, just the city waking, leaves rustling in the breeze, the distant bark of a dog. But Jack's scream lingered, the wet tear of his skin, the mechanical roar of what he became, echoing in the corners of my mind, in the spaces between the shadows. I turned away, fists clenched, nails biting my palms, drawing pinpricks of blood. I couldn't return to the bunker, the woods, the places I once explored with reckless hunger. There were things out there, things we weren't meant to find, things that turned flesh to steel, humanity to monstrosity. I thought I could handle the world's secrets, that my courage was a shield against the unknown. But the bunker had shown me otherwise. What happened to Jack, to the others before him, was beyond comprehension, an experiment that shattered the boundaries of life, a violation of everything human. The bunker had taken something from me, my certainty, my fearlessness, a piece of my soul, and I wasn't sure I'd ever reclaim it. I was done with the woods, done with exploring, done with chasing secrets that were better left buried. What would you do? Could you step into a bunker's darkness, knowing it might harbor horrors that rewrite the rules of existence? Would you risk your humanity to uncover a truth that might consume you, or walk away, leaving the iron veil unlifted, its secrets sealed in the earth's cold embrace?